Welcome back to HGC North America. We just wanted to keep you in suspense for this next game because we're tied 1-1. No Tomorrow versus Tempo Storm. Dread, any thoughts on where we're going to go for the next map?
I cheated. I know the map. Yes, we're going to Warhead Junction. In the words of Tempo, I'm sorry, dude. When a unique map gets picked on production on set here at HGC, everybody goes, you hear where we're going? Like, you know, everybody gets stoked. Everybody's like, it's about to be Drom here.
I don't know if we've seen the Warhead Junction lights yet. Here we go.
That's pretty neat.
Nuclear launch detected.
Nuclear. Oh, we need the audio.
Nuclear launch detected.
Blizzard, please, come on.
That would be so cool.
It just, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
sets the tone.
Man, dude. But Warhead Junction.
Perfect for, you know, 2 days before 4th of July.
Yeah, you know, explosions.
America.
We get the firework, the whole shebang here. Got even the, you know, we're repping it. We're doing our thing, doing our part. But what I do want to know on a slightly analytical point is there was this weird moment at the midseason brawl where in a casual, you know, everybody's sitting around the TV watching everybody play or whatever, and Tempo Storm, it prioritized Warhead a lot more at the midseason brawl is when they started doing it. And in a joking manner, Kata goes, we went from a never Warhead team to an only Warhead team. And so I'm excited to see it finally make its transition away from just international play and kind of come back home. You know, well, what is the rest of North America now that Tempo has some appreciation for a map like Warhead?
It means everybody else has to either fear it and ban it, which may prompt Tempo to get some other maps that they would like, or you got to get ready to shoot some nukes.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it's a meme to claim that Tempo is only a Warhead team. It's just, as Kata likes to put it, things are very short. Like, for instance, Psalm's hero pool, what was it? Valera and Kel'Thas, and he can't play anything other than that. So, I mean, he's short and to the point, Caterpillar.
Abathur ban, taken away by No Tomorrow. Tempo Storm, do they respond with a Dahaka?
With the Abathur removed?
No, because you don't want to give Genji.
I do like the idea of seeing No Tomorrow transfer into that. Dahaka now, knowing again with the Abathur banned out, I expect that out of them. If not, it's going to probably be the Uther or TAS. TAS makes the most sense because TAS Tracer. Forget, we see Warhead so rarely that I forget like this map specific meta. That's a good point. So open TAS leads to the TAS Tracer, TAS Illidan.
Illidan as well.
Every variation of TAS enabling comps are great on a map like this.
Now Tempo Storm with 2 picks. They've got just so many globals as an opportunity. Maybe they just flood the battleground with globals, although Falstad is a scary one into those types of things, especially the TAS Tracer.
I don't know if there's any world where Tempo gives up just the basic Nubarak Uther. I don't know. I feel like
you should get a global here.
You have 2 routes. You either go match them blow for blow, objective raw team fighting, or you go with a more macro concentration. But you have to commit early in the draft is the biggest point that, you know, getting across here. So they're going to go with, yeah, so now they're essentially going matching directly into No Tomorrow. And No Tomorrow, only thing that they have to do into this draft should be essentially slow down any macro play, any heavy concentration on forcing and manipulating one section of the map because they have already committed with the Tassadar into that style of play. The only exception would be if you move into Illidan, you can go blow for blow with Tempo if they focus on the macro. It's a weird momentum base. They commit to the Tracer high up. So now, I mean, man, I don't know if I like it, honestly. I almost wonder if it would have been better to wait onto the Tracer and committing to the TAS enable and hopefully get some resources out of Tempo in the draft, but even that could be too far down.
Yeah, I guess it just depends if they were okay with running an Illidan. If they forced the Tracer ban, then they got the Illidan, or even maybe Tempo Storm would have banned Tracer, then taken Illidan, and then the Tassadar, you would have had to move more into like a Vala Ariel Tassadar.
I want to know if Tempo is going to ban the Arthas. That is something we could see out of them, mainly just because not only is the, you know, on the other side of the table, it looks pretty good to be able to be picked up, but also they want the Illidan to be able to match into Dahaka for the 1v1 and giving them one of those globals and a winning 1v1 between the globals. It should force, if the Arthas is banned out, it should force No Tomorrow to ban just the Illidan flat out and not want to deal with it.
Yeah, they already have a global on their side too, so things are looking good there. Does Tempo Storm stick with this Arthas ban? Is there anything else that's a concern?
Well, I mean, there are other options, but that's kind of the staple we see right now is focus onto the 1v1s for a lot of teams, concentrating on making sure to win those. But I do, like, for instance, Malthael comes to mind really badly here. So now Malthael just gets picked up because the Illidan was banned out. And then you go with the Li Ming on behind it, and you have the enabler for the resets, and you remove the Li Ming for the Cocoon synergy. The only problem is you're a little susceptible to the Tracer, but you are high mobile and self-sustaining enough, and you have magic armor at 1. Like, I feel like if you see that rotation here for Tempo, I just go, how do you lose this game? Level of good. I know the answer, it's macro and getting picked off by Tracer. That is how you lose, but you should be able to identify that and stop that from happening very easily.
So you're saying that this next 2 should be Malthael and Tracer?
I mean, I don't think it has to, but it's something I would like to see. Tempo's yet to pick Malthael, or even pay attention to Malthael. So I'm not saying this is what I expect Tempo, but I just view that rotation right now as really useful for their fighting. Like, they would just have a overall extremely high impact team fight. They have a pretty reasonable 1 versus 1. The long stage of the game, yes, Dahaka will be able to beat you out. Unless you go Zac. That's the only other direction you really would like to see them commit. But again, global should not be your heavy focus. But they say the opposite. They're going to go.
They still get Li Ming. So maybe they want to wait on the Malthael until they see what the rest of No Tomorrow is.
But why Brightwing? Just to be able to deal with the Tracer? It's a double support without a Ario, so not in the same sense that it used to be. I mean, yes, it obviously is partly for the Tracer, partly for the Global, but I'm more asking, can you sniff out any other extremely weird justification? Because I'm struggling.
It's Global.
Yeah.
Global plus Poly for Tracer. Double support. Anything that would be extra enabling for double support. What do you think that last... It's going to be a Psalm hero. It's going to be a melee... Well,
it's
no.
It's going to be a hard... It's going to be a hard engage hero, I think. Whatever it is, like... Give me a second.
Because we're looking at Psalm, Cattle, and Fury. Psalm could play the Li Ming.
Could be Zeratul.
Okay.
I don't like it. Oh, man. Who knows? There's the Stitches and the Karzim picked up for No Tomorrow. It's not the Zeratul. I'm crazy. What is it? That is a very unique slot here for them to fit into this comp. Because you want something hard initiation and gain value out of the Brightwing, but you also want something with sustained DPS because, by the way, you have none. So you either all in on the initiation aspect and get the blow up all in with Brightwing Li Ming, or you go for something with more reliable sustained DPS.
Brightwing Bomb with stage dive.
All right. You know, I respect your...
No, it's Malthael.
I didn't think they would go with the Brightwing into the Malthael, huh?
So this is the first Tempo Storm Malthael. Figured we'd have Karazim Tracer. We see that pairing a lot. Karazim and Tracer together. You got Tassadar too to help with the supporting there. Not a whole lot of follow-up for a hook, but later on you have things like Forest Wall. There is a drag, so you can have to double drag.
One of the few games I don't totally hate 7-sided.
Yeah, that's a good follow-up too.
Yeah,
10.
It's essentially, so you have 2 routes of following up on Stitch's Hook. You can either lock them down, which translates to damage, or you can just have a stupid amount of territorial damage, which you do through 7-sided. So you just you dash to the Stitches, you drop the 7. Granted, it's risky because you have to make sure you get max range hooks then, because again, they move in a little bit too far. The 7-sided is not going to hit on all strikes. But ideally, then you throw the Pulse Bomb immediately after, and it's like, we don't even need the CC because we have so fast a percentile, high amount of burst in that they can make a play. So this is one of the few games where I don't mind 7-sided if it gets picked up here from Tiger.
So we should see Tempo Storm switch Fury back to Anubarak as the primary warrior.
Yeah.
Likely. And then maybe a Cattle Li Ming, Cawthon play Brightwing, and then Psalm play Malthael. That's what I'm guessing we're going to see from them. That would be going with the current trends that we've seen from them.
And like Tempo committed to legitimately the exact 2 picks that I was kind of referring to before with like the Malthael and the Li Ming. But the Brightwing makes me go like, I was totally sold, but I feel like again, like the Tyrael, that seems to be something they're focusing on now. Why not that? Which it gives a little bit of that cross supporting. It's just, if you're doing that for the global, to match Dahaka, you lose. Again, you always have to consider, do I have any chance? And Brightwing is a global, but she's kind of not because she just gets bodied in every 1v1.
She gives some movement speed, so maybe it's trying to help make sure that Malthael doesn't get kited too much. But we're ready for the game. Let's get into that. Maybe we can look at some other similarities or synergies between Tempo Storm's heroes that they've drafted. Let's get into game number 3.
I mean, there is another major thing, which you could argue, going with the Pixie, Manic Pixie. Oh, Mana. Am I crazy? It's Manic Pixie, right? That does the 50%?
Level 4?
No, I'm crazy. Level 13 goes bonus healing on your E, and 16 is for damage reduction, or 16 is damage reduction?
13 is the spell shield right now.
There we go.
Because we haven't had a change. Is that what you're talking about? The 40 spell armor?
Yeah, going with this 40 spell armor because every.
Well, yeah, that's the standard.
Yeah, and so because they don't have CC. But okay, so here's the problem. You're into again the stitches. So then you think, do I go for, am I going Blink Heal or am I going Emerald Wind? Because you and I talked about, maybe it was with Kaldor, the dynamic of what you take when you're facing a stitches and how that changes things. So because you go, well, I can get hooked and I can Blink Heal on out. But if you want Emerald Wind, which most Brightwings want Emerald Wind in modern day, you go, well, then I need to go 13 Ice Block to be effective. But then if you go that, you no longer have the burst reduction to the Pulse Bomb, to the 7-sided strike. So it suddenly puts a lot of focus onto Cawthon, which is playing the secondary support, which, by the way, is not his main role. So even then, he now has a lot more pressure. So much so, I hope he just goes Blink Heal, because if they go into the Blink Heal and not moving the Ice Block, it could be tragic.
Yeah, just more so trying to keep that Malthael and Li Ming alive. We will have to see. That is an interesting concept to see what the heroic ability would be. To be able to separate, especially to have Emerald Wind for boss fights, which we know will be a factor later on, would be ideal. But again, whether or not they feel like they can execute that and be able to execute that separation on top of No Tomorrow.
Yeah, and another kind of focus into that weird interaction. Like, part of the reason why Stitches and Brightwing specifically have that kind of weird interaction is mainly due to the lack of mount that exists on the side of Brightwing. So Brightwing, almost always you're like, I want to get value out of my global, so I'm going to split push, you guys split push up on top, right? A boss is going, I'm going to get the side soak. But then she teleports in to help with the actual siege itself. But then retreating, no one can leave Brightwing. Otherwise, the entire team moves up, tracks you down like an Illidan comp would in normal comp, and she is a actual liability. So it's just, Brightwing is such a weird support, and like how she plays and how you have to play with and around. I just feel like it was, again, most Brightwings are a risk that isn't maybe necessary.
Yeah, that actually happened yesterday in Even in Death versus Superstars. Even in Death had a Brightwing, and they actually eventually ended that game on Sky Temple, and they were able to win it. But there was a point where she was caught, and you can punish the time when Emerald Wind is on cooldown, because not having that to be able to push back and hopefully escape from that, you can throw your Pixie Dust on yourself for the movement speed boost from that, is very detrimental to a Brightwing.
So far, the laning aspect of what we've seen into this game has been rather, slow. It's just been trying to mirror one another on opposite sides of the map. Tempo Storm putting a bit more focus here down on bottom, whereas No Tomorrow went up towards top. We saw one warhead thrown down. First firework of the day.
One for either side. Fear the Reaper as a Malthael level 1. So again, giving movement speed bonus. That has been more popular, it seems, here in North America, although I don't know if I've looked at every Malthael build in Europe, but I've seen a lot more of the Wraith Strike increased range. But in this case, again, being able to have that movement speed to get away, because Malthael doesn't have a whole lot of escape, being able to have that from a Stitches or a Dahaka drag can be the difference of life and death, especially since, again, it can let you pass through units.
Tiger JK, luckily had the dash there, was able to dodge the impale coming out from Fury. Just more cycling of pressure and rotations here. Tempo is got to be feeling happy, mainly just the fact that they aren't worried about the Task Tracer roam, because the laning of Dahaka and the Stitches and Karazim, specifically the Stitches Karazim, is so weak that they can only essentially fear one lane to be heavily pressured. Equinox got out, has to dash away, and so it's just really what is normally a scary levels 1 through 9 on a map like this, not as intimidating, because two of their solo laners are just merely there to be a placeholder, soak the experience. A glorified minion, maybe. Best way to put it down.
Yeah, No Tomorrow, I've not been able to get any early game picks with the Pulse Bomb of Equinox so far. Kala's Embrace, saw that with the Plasma Shield, being able to allow Tracer to heal herself back up a lot. So we're going to start sieging here in the mid. Take down some towers, but very even early, passive early game for both teams.
That makes me scared for No Tomorrow, just because I do love the raw 5-on-5 team fight of Tempo Storm, just between the Malthael, Uther, Anubarak, and Li Ming. Again, the Brightwing, questionable. But it's just going to be, I still very much feel like No Tomorrow is going to start a fight and then quickly realize there is no shot we got of taking this unless they get a catch out in a rotation, which again is expecting Tempo Storm to make a huge misplay here.
Force spawn Warhead phase deploying in 9 seconds. With Dahaka down in the bottom, he will have a mercenary camp heading in down there. But hoping he could pick that up before. Sadly, that will not be the case. Li Ming and Anubarak are starting to converge. We see who gets the better end of the deal here.
Nice pulse bomb attempt. Cattle under a bit of pressure. He's going to return some of that favor on back. Throws out the E. Just contesting all over the map right now. Everybody in a little bit of a 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2 to try and get all of these warheads. Tempo still has 1 to their name. Cattle goes out. Who else? June getting body blocked down. Nice knock up. Oh, but look at that.
All right, Tracer and Uther trade out, but it's still a 2-for-1 in favor of No Tomorrow. Sam has a nuke, so he does not want to lose that. Polymorph as Cawthon Luck phase shifts in. Jason in trouble. Fury chases Tempo Storm, hoping they can get another kill to even out this engagement.
Not able to make it in the shrub and try and use that passive, and that is now Tempo getting another pick here over No Tomorrow. The Warhead's going to be dropped on down. Stitch is still trying to do work here up on top. He just wants to play, but he's sadly only getting minions for now. But he did get the fort, so that is going to be a little bit more experience here over to No Tomorrow. Tempo's still hoping for that 10 mark. One thing I did want to talk about that I haven't actually looked into too much is Gorge against Malthel as an attempt to be able to stop the Tormented Souls. I thought we might be able to get it into this game. Sadly, it's still going to be the Bile choice here for No Tomorrow.
Yeah, Cocoon is a very good option against that, but in this case, Tempo Storm having Cocoon. No Tomorrow do have Tracer to try to take down that very quickly, but No Tomorrow will have to figure out how they're going to deal with the Tormented Souls of Caterpillar. That was a early palm.
It was actually not terrible if Tassadar wasn't there. It was one of those, like, she could very easily get 100 to 0
yeah,
if
that's
Li Ming
true.
hits a full rotation, but
Very
then the
low
Task
health.
Shield came out, then the Task Shield died, and then it was like, oh, she's fine.
It was just the first time happening, though. You know that a lot of times it's the first time. Now they can work on their communication for the next one, but it is hard when you have Tassadar shielding at the same time.
So it was the Emerald win there for Cawthon. I like it. I like every time we see Brightwing, I feel like Emerald Wind is a better choice for the most part. You need to gain value out of her utility, not her supporting aspects. It's just going to be whether or not there's enough pressure applied to the front part of No Tomorrow's draft and on Malthel. And with the going into the isolation on the Dahaka, it's just these talent choices feel like Tempo's only getting stronger.
If Spell Armor is your concern for Malthel, he can get Shroud of Wisdom at 13.
Yep. It's not even just, it's not, mainly not just like onto the Malthel. Malthel specifically, I don't think is the worry. It's whoever gets Stitches hooked, right? Boss started, not completed. There it is. Nice knockback from the Emerald Wind. And that is Tempo getting 1 pick already. Pulse Bomb drop, Divine Shield perfectly timed.
Very well done. Casanova dropping the Bile to try to slow things down, but Jason's the next one in trouble. Hopes to burrow out and does get out, but he was poisoned. And he will go down. Casanova gets caught. Tempo Storm looks to be a lot like what they did in the last game, which is just start to win fights and never let go of the game.
I just want to shout out Brosidon on that one. He clipped literally the pick of a guy dying on one side of the map, got the animation, and then came back to catch any picks. My goodness, this guy needs a highlight reel because that was maybe more intensive macro than we saw No Tomorrow display in that fight because they got 100 to 0 real quick.
Oh, well, I will shout out Colin there, Brosidon. I will leave everything else you said alone. Not even gonna touch that. Tempo Storm doing really well. They've got the boss. They got a lot of damage on the keep.
You know, Tempo with the adaptation of picking up Warhead and becoming more focused onto it, it does seem like their general thought process and philosophy on how to take the map has been hyper-focused on one of the boss lanes and enable that to get an early victory with the boss. And this game, their victim was into the bottom lane. Nice zoning there. Tiger JK at least is going to get 1 Warhead here. Fury moves up. It's just a bit of a trade, really, is all it is.
Dahaka still dealing with the bottom. Hook hits, but it's Sam. Look where Caterpillar's positioning. Cawthon Luck phase shifts in on the other side. Casanova is body blocked getting hit by every single bit of crowd control, but...
Pulse Bomb got ice blocked. There it is. Cattle looks to move in there with the Tormented Souls. And that's a good description of what he's doing right now, just torturing, tormenting those members of No Tomorrow. Hook goes out, doesn't land. Nice use of the minion there. Tempo Storm makes it out, only losing one member.
Excellent palm from Tiger JK to be able to enable No Tomorrow to turn that fight around. Now they take out another fort with their nuke. And they're still hanging into this game, despite losing such a difficult battle earlier on.
Yeah, and Tiger JK going into the palm in this game, he specifically, I talk a lot, actually. I mentioned to Tiger JK somehow on the ladder more than any professional player, so I talk to him a lot because I somehow accidentally snipe him. And we talk about like Karzim specifically. I've been hyped over Karzim. I feel like he's risen in power due to some of the changes on all the others, and he always does just like, if Karzim sits at the top of the meta, like I'm always palm, he always has been palm, one of the only North American supports to stick with that. And probably one of the more successful as well. This game, we've had mixed results, but I just want to keep an eye on to him because he still is, I would still say, even though on No Tomorrow, without the success that they've had, one of the best Karzims we have here in NA.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And that really is just the fact that he's been playing Karzim for so long.
Yeah.
It hasn't really been just like a new addition for him. He's been playing Karzim for a long time. He loved his Insight Karzim too. Hook prompts Tormented Souls.
Yeah, that's a huge cooldown.
Really nice for No Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's wow. I just want to see him try and abuse that now, right? Because now that we have 70 seconds, 65 and counting, where Tempo Storm is going to be down a very influential heroic that should enable the Li Ming. Again, Maltha is only half the problem here. Li Ming is really the finisher, and so you remove the first step. Try and capitalize on that with your experience advantage. They're going to. This boss is going to be the start. What about Tempo here? Bottom boss doesn't spawn for a minute 12, so it's not like anybody on Tempo Storm is waiting around hoping they can get a boss. They are going to snipe the bottom keep, though. Yeah,
they realize exactly where No Tomorrow is, not wanting to face that fight being down 16 and without that crucial heroic ability. Simply take a keep at least, get some pressure out on this very large battleground in the bottom lane.
Boss is picked up for No Tomorrow. Wow, he waited. Wow. Okay, so here it is. Jason's going to be down. I thought for a moment that June would actually face check that shrub and he'd try and back and just get the stall out and pick. That was what I was so afraid of. Luckily, Jason makes it out. He's fine. Warhead sitting 3-2. Tempo Storm pulling ahead. Gonna rid of the boss, but without No Tomorrow pressuring up, it's not like any Warhead is gonna be necessary to get the clean onto this boss.
Still having 3 and already a keep down makes things scary for No Tomorrow. 16's here for Tempo Storm. They have Tormented Souls back up. Nukes being dropped, 1 just to deal with the boss. 2 on the keep from No Tomorrow. That's all the nukes they have. The boss dealt with in quick fashion. No Tomorrow is not able to take out a keep. Tempo Storm holds.
If No Tomorrow is going to use the double Warhead there, I would have liked to see them all in it. It's just one of those, you need to make sure you use your resources properly whenever you're still in even footing with Tempo. You're eventually going to have to deal with catapult pressure into the bottom half of the map. Just would have been nice to see those resources used more than just a poke, even if it's in a team fight or a boss fight that we know is inevitable in the later stages now on bottom.
There's a boss in the bottom, and Tempo Storm, with good nuke control, resource control, still has 2 of their nukes for this.
Equinox, palm lands.
Wow!
Tiger JK saving it up. The exact situation we talked about before. The minute the Taz shield didn't come out, the palm actually was worth it. Very well done.
About 100-0 proccing that palm. That was perfect. But the polymorph now, and Equinox goes down.
And look at that. Man, Cattle, Tormenting Souls going off. Tiger JK tries to dash on through to at least distract the members of Tempo. But with 2 guys dead, it's just more, how much does No Tomorrow lose here? Nice dodge and not allowing the passive of Cattle.
No Tomorrow feared this boss because they already have lost the keep in the bottom lane. But now taking out both Tracer and Karazim, Tempo Storm are very confident with the 2 nukes to bypass the boss and move all in to try to end the game right here.
We got 23 seconds till Karazim's back stitches. You got that AoE damage in the slow. He goes onto June. Archon's going to be dropping. Casanova falling so very low. That is the first kill. Nuke 1 and 2 is online. There is the fireworks show. June goes down, but again, he's an Uther. That's the first target you always want to die onto a core. Heal everything up. And this looks like it's it. Tempo Storm should be able to take this.
The synergy of Tempo Storm has just been impeccable with
I
all
lied.
of the
I'm
crowd
wrong.
control. But yeah, this is losing Li Ming. Uther already gone. They've got the Cocoon down though, but Tempo Storm is all inning on this core. It's a 20%.
What? 20%? 19, 17. Okay, the shielding. 14.
14? 11?
Tested our shields. I was like, hello? Okay, we can calm down. We figured it out. It's 11%.
13 seconds until Uther's up. Jason's pushing that top lane. Oh my.
Where?
No tomorrow?
Okay, so let's take a minute here. Sorry, I'm doing math in my head. I'm not actually doing math. I'm thinking about the next few minutes for No Tomorrow and how they win this game. Because, okay, so this boss should be the last thing you cap. You ideally want the top warhead. You have to win the game with this push. So you want to move it through bottom. First thing to note when it comes to this undiving in the core, let's look at what tempo, because this should have been them able to end it. First of all, Psalm falls pretty low. June's the first to be able to be pressured out, and June ends up going up forward, drops his warhead, goes in, and then he gets dragged. He looks to die. That's not terrible, considering he's the Uther. You want him to die first. So what goes wrong here?
Well, Psalm is out of mana, for one. That is part of the problem. He also gets hit by Equinox, who comes right on out and immediately takes Psalm down.
That's a good point.
All right. So there's a boss
Double
for
warhead.
No Tomorrow.
No Tomorrow has to win through bottom with this boss right now.
Yeah,
because if they don't, the core will just die. It's 11%.
Cannot deal with an 11% core.
Oh my gosh, Cattle.
One nuke is used. Cattle gets dragged. Jason's caught him.
Cattle's so out of position.
Equinox is there. He has to go in with Tormented Souls. Divine Shield's been used too.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one here. With those cooldowns down, there goes the hook. The damage going out. Isolation, Emerald Wind pushing the members of No Tomorrow away. They're all alive, but all pretty weak when it comes to the HP. Boss, though, shares the same tail. He's going to be sitting below the 25% mark. There's the first warhead going down. Psalm very low.
No, that's the second warhead too. They already used one. This is down on the keep. They take down the keep, but they don't have any nukes for this core.
Okay, so they either all in right now, which is still very, very risky. They're going to commit with it. Or you go through top, play the slow game, and hope for a miracle. No Tomorrow is putting all their money on the line here versus Tempo Storm in Game 3. 80% and counting. Jason falling so very low. He drops the burrow 50% in town. Can they do this?
30% and going down. No Tomorrow still sticking on the core. They've got the four members only to Haka die. They did it! No Tomorrow take out the core of Tempo Storm.
At 10, like less than that amount of HP, you said it before the series started, No Tomorrow. With the ability to identify those win conditions, they all in and get another win over Tempo.
I'll be honest, I'd already circled Tempo Storm here.
Which circle means they won. Yeah. And in Gilly's notes, if you circle, it means you got the victory.
Just cross the
awkward.
circle other side.
Got some white out here, boys, because wow, I didn't exactly keep track as I was watching that replay. Yeah, exactly what motions that No Tomorrow made when it came to both of those warheads. But the main goal should be isolating both of the warheads, picking up the boss, and the reason why I was sitting there thinking for so long is, do they actually have to all in with that boss? And the reason why you do is just because it goes to the lane where you know your opponents want to go for the win condition.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure you keep them busy in that lane. Like mid-season brawl example would be like when Fnatic got the 1% core. The reason why they keep going to bottom lane over and over again is in trying to draw aggro away from the core is because that is the win condition. That's the keep where you know they're going to be moving in. And with the 20 spike with 2 warheads, I was like, yeah, this is it. But when they burnt both of those, I didn't think there was any chance they could do that there. And I understand why they didn't play the slow game. I would have made the same call. Even if I was like, guys, I don't think we win this, but this is our best chance to win this game. I just didn't think they would be able to execute it like that.
No Tomorrow makes good core calls.
They do. Almost miracle level at this point. I've never seen a core that close, I think, in North America for a long while. Like where it's like, just going blow for blow, again, without the team whites, having those kind of 5 versus 5s and then taking the team to the core and still being able to win and being like, oh, you know, just fraction of HP, totally calculated.
And instantly realizing, like, this is it.
Yeah.
We have to do this. We cannot hesitate now. This is it. If we're going to beat Tempo Storm here, our core is already 11%. Everything is on the line in this moment, and they delivered. Very well done.
It's just, you can't say enough positive things. That fact, but we also have to keep in track of the fact that Tempo was leading almost the entire game. So now it's kind of funny because we know Tempo has always been a very at the top of NA, and then they go and they push, and then if they fail to push, there's advantage is hard enough. Essentially, they're giving their opponents opportunities to come back. But nobody's ever really been that good to be able to come back. But it does feel like now enough North American teams have grown individually to where it doesn't mean they always will, but at least they can if you really goof.
But Tempo Storm is also not giving those advantages as freely.
Yes.
They were pushing in for the core. They got the core to 11%.
That game specifically, yeah, it was like a miscalculation onto the core and a full wipe, which allows the punishment onto the other side. But even then, like looking at game number 1 and some of the other trends, like even with Gale Force Esports and how those series played out, it does just feel like the weaknesses of Tempo were nobody else was good enough relative to them to actually get a win. And now, at least even teams like No Tomorrow are able to be like, you know, maybe this isn't as okay as you once thought it was at some point in time. Yes, Tempo is improving, but that hole, when it does show, other teams are finding ways to make it happen.
Yeah, I think it just happens to be that Tempo Storm is improving and they're doing what they need to do to get to the next step for them. It's something that we've seen from teams in other regions.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunately for them, there are good teams out there that are able to take advantages of those adjustments being made by Tempo Storm at the time. And now that puts No Tomorrow up 2-1 in the series. But we've got another game about to get underway. We know the next battleground is going to be Brax